Many centuries ago, in ancient Transylvania, a land shrouded in mystery and darkness, there existed a legend feared by all, that of the bloodthirsty Dracula. His name echoed in the villagers' nightmares, and his bloodlust was as insatiable as the night itself. Dracula's castle, a gloomy building, stood on top of a hill, surrounded by dark, dense forests. The nights were his allies, and the souls of the townspeople trembled when the sun went down, because they knew that this creature, condemned to eternity, lurked in the shadows. Dracula, whose real name was Vladislav Tepes, was a man of noble birth, but his heart had been plunged into darkness when, in his youth, he lost his beloved to a vampire. That tragedy pushed him into an abyss of revenge and bloodlust that transformed him into what he hated most. Every night, Dracula descended from his castle stealthily, his footsteps echoing like whispers in the night's silence. The villages were left in a blanket of terror when he approached, because they knew that, once again, they would have to face the nightmare. On one of those infernal nights, fate crossed Dracula's path with that of a young villager named Elena. She had lost her family to the vampire, and her heart burned with desire for revenge. The vampire and the huntress met in a clearing in the forest, under the pale light of the moon. Dracula's eyes, previously cold and lifeless, found Elena's unwavering determination. "Who are you, brave hunter?" Dracula asked with a hint of curiosity in his voice. "I am Elena, and I have sworn to free this land from your curse," she answered firmly. Dracula, intrigued by Elena's bravery, revealed her story to her. How he had been cursed by a witch centuries ago and condemned to an eternity of darkness and blood. Elena, despite everything, felt compassion for the being in front of her. "You can choose not to be a monster," Elena said. "You can find redemption and stop spreading terror in this land." Dracula felt a spark of hope for the first time in centuries. Elena convinced him to find a solution for his curse and, together, they undertook a dangerous journey in search of the witch who had condemned him. The journey was long and full of dangers. In their quest, they faced mythical beasts, crossed treacherous rivers, and defied the dark forces that sought to stop them. Finally, they came to a dark forest where the witch dwelt. The confrontation with the witch was epic. Elena and Dracula fought bravely, but the witch was powerful. In the darkest moment, Elena used a sacred amulet that she had carried with her and managed to undo Dracula's curse. The transformation was instantaneous. Dracula was no longer a bloodthirsty vampire, but a man tormented by his past sins. Elena and Dracula returned to the castle, where Count Vladislav Tepes was tormented by Dracula's disappearance. Vladislav was tried for his crimes and sentenced to a punishment appropriate for his cruelty. Elena and Dracula, finally free of the curse, married and lived peacefully in the castle, ruling with kindness and compassion. But Dracula's story didn't end there. Over the years, he became a legendary figure who fought against vampires and evil beings that threatened humanity. Together with Elena, he formed a group of vampire hunters that toured Europe, facing supernatural dangers. However, the shadow of his past never completely disappeared. Dracula had nightmares and visions of his old life, and sometimes the bloodlust threatened to return. But Elena was at his side, reminding him that he had found redemption and that he was no longer a monster. Despite years of peace and redemption, Dracula's old bloodlust still lurked in the shadows of his mind. There were nights when the memory of his past acts tormented him, and the temptation to return to his dark self was almost irresistible. However, Elena, his beloved wife, was always at his side, reminding him of the path they had traveled together. Time passed, and the fame of the vampire hunters led by Dracula and Elena grew. They became legends, hunting creatures of the night and protecting the innocent from supernatural horrors. Their love and devotion to each other grew even stronger with each battle won, but they also knew that their fight would never completely end. One night, when the full moon illuminated the sky with its pale light, Dracula and Elena faced a threat that shook the foundations of their world. An ancient clan of vampires, led by a powerful and vengeful being, emerged from the shadows. This dark vampire was known as Armand, and he had sworn revenge against Dracula for defying him centuries ago. The battle that followed was epic and fierce. Armand and his followers were formidable, and Dracula and Elena fought with all their might to stop the threat. The fight raged for hours, as blood was spilled and the vampire's howls echoed through the night air. Finally, with a joint effort and the sacrifice of some of his loyal companions, Dracula and Elena managed to defeat Armand and his clan. But victory did not come without a high cost. The wound Dracula suffered during the battle was deep and threatened to consume him. Elena, with tears in her eyes, knelt next to him. "Don't leave me, my love," she whispered. "We've faced our nightmares together, and I don't want to live in a world without you." Dracula smiled weakly and caressed Elena's face. "My beloved Elena, you are my light in the darkness. Although my time in this world is running out, I know that my redemption is assured thanks to you." With a final sigh, Dracula closed his eyes and faded into eternity. Elena mourned the loss of her beloved husband, but she knew that her sacrifice had been necessary to protect humanity from dark forces. Years passed, and Elena continued the fight against the creatures of the night in memory of Dracula. She kept her legend alive, remembering her redemption and his bravery. The vampire hunters who joined her swore to carry on her legacy, ensuring that the light would always prevail over the shadows. The story of Dracula and Elena became a legend that was passed down from generation to generation, a story of love, redemption and sacrifice. In ancient Transylvania, her legacy endured through the centuries as a reminder that even the darkest can find light if they have the will to change, and that love can overcome any obstacle, even the curse of immortality.